Hello, everybody. It's so weird having to start the show out. I love when Jordan starts it for us, but welcome to the Saturday morning D&D show. Saturday morning.
Hey.
As you can see, we have a special guest, a recurring guest that we have here. Jordan will be out today, although I bet he types in some messages here or there. But we have Danimal DM joining us once again. He's a dungeon master for many people, not just me. But definitely Dungeon Master runs a game that we run on Tuesday nights over on his channel. And we'll talk about that in the show. But he's going to be here just kind of taking over. And we're going to do the regular old format here in Saturday morning D&D show. So I hope you're ready. He's in Australia, so he woke up super early for us, for all Australian people. So that's nice. How you been doing? Well, how's the day going?
Yeah, it's going all right. I've been awake for about 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
I'm feeling pretty good.
Perfect.
So, yeah, things have been great on my end. I had a lovely day today so far. Nothing bad has gone wrong.
That's good. Somebody's saying in chat, hey, it's the famous Danimal. I agree. It's the famous Danimal. Now, so it's winter here. We were just talking about weather just a tiny bit before we jumped on. I'm in the middle, or we're at the start of our winter, probably got a couple months, and then we'll start to ease into spring. What are we in Australia? Same thing, different?
In Australia, we're currently if you view it the way that a lot of us do, we're currently in the second month of 5 months of summer. And technically, summer is supposed to end in February, but it doesn't. It is starting to get hot, although we've had a pretty cold summer so far because of, I believe, El Nino has hit us with a cold wave over Christmas. So it normally gets, I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit. It normally gets over 40 degrees Celsius regularly, but we've only hit that like once or twice so far. So it's been a pretty mild one, but it's looking like it's going to heat up in mid-Feb. So we'll see how we go.
All right. Well, that's good. I'm ready for it. I want to get back outside once again for us. Now, do you get, even though it's winter where you're at, I mean, it can be very different in Australia depending where you're at. Do you get a lot of snow or no snow near you? You guys got to drive to find snow.
It very, very rarely naturally snows in any places. There's a couple of ski places where they're up high, and I hear that even Hobart, the very bottom in Tasmania, gets some snow, but generally speaking, it doesn't even get anywhere near to your temperatures. Like I talk regularly with some of the other players, and I look and like our temperatures never really dip below 0 Celsius. And for you guys, the other day, where Logan was negative 20 something in my degrees, and I'm like, no, that's way too cold.
That's what it is here right now, super cold. So all right, well, this is a D&D show, so we'll jump to D&D. Always like to hear what it's like where your players are, where your dungeon masters are. So we'll start with our news, and really the big news is our books that are coming out, which is the gift set, but everybody's been talking about the Monsters of the Multiverse, the book that's going to have all the changes in it. There is a video out on the Dungeons & Dragons website. They've not Chris Perkins, but Jeremy Crawford has put up a video. They've kind of feels like they've come back from their winter break, come back from their holiday break, and they are now starting to put out small videos again and doing their little things because their channel's been kind of light of content as of late. But they talked about the 33 playable races. They went back and did a deeper lore on goblins where they talk about what happened before what we know as the Forgotten Realm goblins, where they started to worship a certain god. And I know if Lord, Jordan was here, he'd remember the name. But they also talk about what happened before that, goblins of different areas or places before that god had interfered with them or affected them in some way. So
I want to say it starts with an M. But
the only thing in my head is like Oubliex, but that's like the not the one. He just did a Zugmatoy. That was George's latest one. That one's in my head too. I was just like, oh, that's such a cool name for a cool guy.
I want to say Magoobliet or something.
Yeah, something like that. Somebody in chat will remember. Yeah, Magoobliet. Yeah. Somebody typed it in. That was good. Good job.
I was close.
So what do you think about what you've been hearing? Because we've just seen rumors, we've seen other videos, maybe you've seen other people do. We haven't got the books in our hands yet because you can't get it till March if you're going to buy it separate. And it's not on D&D Beyond, is it? Because you're a big D&D Beyond customer.
Yeah. So it's actually not out till like May 17th. It's March for the Critical Role book. It's
that's right.
It's a whole like 3.5 months until we get access to it on
That's
D&D
crazy.
Beyond, which I get from a marketing perspective, but it still bums me out.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm very excited for it, as are all my players who have heard about the new race changes. Can they be active now? We've seen images from the book. Because I've got a bunch of people that are playing a lot of the changed races. Like I've got a Egg Genasi and a Deep Gnome. Like they get some really nice changes. The biggest change that a lot of my players have been talking about is the ability to cast any spell that they learn from the class with spell slots.
Right.
And so that means, like, if you pick the Githzerai, you can have shield. No matter, you could be a cleric with shield if you're a cleric Githzerai.
Use whatever spell slots you got.
Yeah. I know that a certain player is a little bit bummed out at the perspective of his speed dropping from 50 flying down to 30 flying.
That guy complains too much, though. Actually, I think I think it's okay if you're going to put it in line because I think my walking speed was 25 and I think that just bumps to 30, and if people's swim speed, fly speed, walk speed, wall crawl speed is 30, I think that's pretty good. Did they do it to the Tabaxi then too? Because I felt like the Tabaxi was
every creature with a swimming, flying, or climbing speed, according to the people who have been revealing the changes, they're all equalized to your walking speed, which means if you have anything that increases your walking speed, it also increases those speeds, so that's nice. I do find it interesting how it almost seems like they're trying to stabilize all the races. And I totally get that. Like every single race that has a unarmed strike ability. Playable race. Every single one that has a unarmed strike ability is now a D6 plus strength generically. When there was like some that plus con, some that were a D4.
And it probably makes sense when you start to look at your rules bloat over the amount of books you have, and then you start to think about, okay, what about a new player that's coming in? Do you as a DM hand them the book and say, okay, here's 33 races to pick from. They all have different walk speeds. They all have different this. They all have different rules. That might be a little bit overwhelming, where if you start to put some things that are the same, you sacrifice maybe some of these races having a flavor that's to their own and makes them stand out. But it does make it easier for that new player to come in and say, okay, well, speeds are the same. Certain types of damage is the same. I only need a D6 for this. I don't have to have all kinds of wonky dice for it. And
nobody wants to step on a D4.
Nobody wants it. That's why it should be more damage. D4 is always crit, or whatever.
In my home game, caltrops are D4s.
D4 is perfect.
Throw them on the ground. The thing that I did find interesting is there's 2 playable races that have magical resistance. The Satyr and the Yuan Ti. And they've now specified with magical resistance, I don't know if this is going to be across the board with monsters or not, that it only relates to spells. You know how it used to be magical effects as well?
Yeah.
And then there would be the discussion, okay, is
what's
your
a magical
arrow a magical effect? Is stunning strike a magical effect? Is this a magic? It's like, I assume they've done that in a way where it just makes things easier, where like, is this literally a spell? Is it a spell? No, then don't worry about it.
Yeah. I always thought they should just change that to, instead of saying magic resistant, spell resistance. And that way, if it was a spell written in the book for any of those lists, it counts. If it's not a spell written in a book, then something else weird is going on.
I'm also really digging the what's it called, the proficiency bonus application across the board, like with abilities and with like. The ASMR used to be, if you remember with Vanguard, you used to be able to heal somebody for your level. Now it's your proficiency bonus times D4.
Oh, interesting.
So
I must have missed that one.
If you're a level 1, you can heal somebody for 2D4. and then if you're level 5 for 3d4. And I dig that. It makes it a bit more random and a little bit more powerful earlier on.
Yeah. Yeah, I did like ASMR. The big ones that I've seen that changes that really interest me are kind of the Genasi for sure. I love some of the changes they did there.
Agreed.
But 33 playable races, that's really crazy to think of. And that's not including the ones that show up in the player's handbook. I don't know if that's even the total number of races outside of the player's handbook. There still might be some in other books not represented there, maybe?
Yeah, there's a bunch that are from like Magic the Gathering that are.
Oh, okay, so that makes sense.
I don't think there's Minotaurs or Centaurs. I don't think there's Leonin.
Okay, so yeah, those would come from.
Seder made it though from Theros.
Yeah, interesting. So okay, well, cool. That's coming out. Well, you can buy it if you're going to buy the 3-box set. I'm pretty sure I saw that on the shelf already. You just have to shell out money for probably maybe 2 books you've already bought. I
mean,
and then get the third one, you know. So maybe
you haven't bought them yet. It's a great deal. Yeah. But if you have, which is a lot of players, because everyone was loving Tasha's, and Xanathar's has always been the
right on the
best
shelf.
player book. Yeah.
They do have new alternate covers. So if you're a collector of the different types of artworks or cover works, there's the standard set that has the black and red binding, but they also have a white slipcase one that looked really nice. I thought it was really cool. So that's the big thing. That's all we've heard. We've still not gotten a hint of what the next, besides the Critical Role Netherdeep book, what's after that for Wizards of the Coast. What's their next one that's non-Critical Role version based. So I'm waiting to hear about that. But not only are they doing that book that comes out in March, but the show just released. Vox Machina's show just hit Amazon. You can watch I believe the first 3 episodes if you have the subscription to Amazon. I feel like some people got to watch it early. Maybe they were Kickstarter people.
Yeah, I don't know. Luke from
Luke said he watched 3 of them. And I was like, how? I couldn't tell
all
yesterday.
Excited. I got dinner ready. I was going to sit down and watch them, and they weren't there.
Yeah,
maybe he backed it.
Maybe it was a Kickstarter backers could watch it. So we were talking just a little bit before the show on it. You've watched 1 episode. I've watched the 3 so far. We are going to do spoilers here. This show has always been spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers on that show and you missed the campaign watching it live, because I remember watching this part of the campaign live, the part they talk about in the show, and I'm going to watch the show. So it's kind of, you already have spoilers if you understand Critical Role.
Wait, there's a character named Grog?
Yeah, what's happening? But first impressions, I'll jump in a little bit. 2 things surprised me. One, I really didn't realize it wasn't for kids, or at least a younger audience. And I guess in my mind, and I don't know what told me this because I watched the campaign, and they've had some adult jokes in there and they've done some stuff, but it never dawned on me the level they took it here so far in the show. So I wouldn't necessarily let my kids watch. I don't know. I don't even know what age I'd let them watch it. Maybe 13, 15, 27. I don't know.
I mean, like, I could have used that advice about 24 hours ago.
Yes.
Because we were all excited. My kids play D&D, and my daughter is in love with Jester from campaign 2. The whole concept of Jester she loves. But it is the show, the Critical Role things, they're definitely not super kid friendly. Like, there's times where it's fine, but there's definitely times where it's not. But anyway, my 3 kids were very excited to be watching an animated D&D show, and very quickly, like, it looked cool
Shoot
and
out of the room.
super gory.
Yeah.
And like, my kids are okay with gory, and they've played video games and they've watched other things. Like, we're currently diving through all the X-Men movies, but the gore we were fine with, but then that tavern scene with Scanlan and the and the tavern owner's daughter. I mean, like, at the beginning, as soon as she appeared, we're like, okay, everybody out, and then they walked out just before it cut back. If you remember the
Right.
scene when they
Oh
cut
yeah.
back to him, yeah, I'm like, oh, that was good timing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely an adult
I
audience.
guess I should explain that too. Like in some countries, the thing that's a little bit more taboo in shows is violence,
Hmm.
whereas you can have some nudity or they can have some talk about um, sex isn't as
Yeah,
big a deal. So like I'm thinking like Britain and that is they don't care as much, or they hadn't back in the day about the nudity part or that kind
sure.
of piece. But the violence was a big deal for putting on their screen, and that could all have changed by now. In America, it
It's
always
different
had
for
been violent. You could have violence to the extreme on TV
mm,
shows, but it was the minute you had any type of impropriety as far as nudity or of a sexual nature, that was all shut down, right? So, and that make okay, that's how we are. So Australia sounds then similar to us in that way, where violence
yeah,
is
like
okay.
well, that's definitely my area. Like,
Yeah,
but
okay.
it depends on where, like who
Okay.
you are. Like everyone has different
Yeah.
sensibilities and whatnot. I do know that in Australia, things that are often R-rated for you aren't R-rated for us. So I
Yeah.
think we're a little bit more relaxed. Like I remember, oh, that's our kids. You won't be able to see it, and then we find out that it's actually MA here, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. We're good.
Yeah. All right. Well, so it's different. So it could be different in whatever country you might be living in.
Yeah.
So to us, there are some, scenes where they get a little rowdy. They get a little raunchy. I think, and they
Hmm.
go for some of those kinds of jokes. They're doing like a ball tag, game at one point in the show that you might not have gotten to yet, and
Yeah.
so they do some of that locker room humor too, plus the show, of the characters. So the second thing I didn't realize, I thought when they announced doing the Kickstarter and it was going to be about episodes that happened before the campaign had kicked off and they were streaming the campaign. So it was kind of stuff or storyline or story beats that happened that we didn't see with these characters before we got to see them on
Sure.
Geek and Sundry, Twitch, and
Yeah.
YouTube streaming and all that. But from what I could tell, that scene in the beginning is right out of, the first, pretty close to the first episodes that you got to see. And the second episode, second and third kind of lead into fighting somebody that will be very familiar to you pretty quickly, and then jumping right into the storyline of Talison's storyline, which were the people that took over his family's
The Briarwoods.
the Briarwoods. So they jump right into the Briarwoods. So that's like deep into what their campaign was. So
Right.
was that the impression you had, or maybe I just had a misimpression? Did you know that's
Yeah,
where they were going with the show?
I had the impression it was going to be a bit more prequel stuff.
Huh.
There are definitely characters that were introduced in the prequel area that are now active characters now, and I think maybe they're sort of compressing because I think we're going to see maybe some things compressed, but I could be wrong. I don't know. But yeah, I was wondering if they were going to show something because from my memory of them talking about what happened before the show, at one point Keyleth accidentally killed a bunch of kids, and I'm like, oh, are they going to be okay with kid death? And then in that first episode, with the building like that
Mm-hmm.
bummed me out, and in a like, I don't mean in a good way, but like in a good, I like it when a show makes me feel
Yeah.
emotional in some way. And when he got that coin back from that kid, when Vax did,
Yeah.
yeah, that I'm like, okay, I'm invested. This is good. This isn't just raunchy, poop jokes or whatever. It's also nice, deep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
dig it.
Yeah, so it definitely was a way to. I wonder. I would love to talk to somebody who's never known anything about Critical Role, but happened to be
Right.
flipping through Amazon and saw, oh, I wonder what this Vox Machina thing is. I like anime, or I like, you know,
Mhm.
D&D shows. Did you feel like it? I didn't feel like either. Like I was immediately in a D&D show yet.
Mhm.
Although I guess by the end of it, when like you said, the kind of the big bad thing that they're fighting kind of shows up. Maybe that's the first part you feel like, okay, this is grounded in the games we like to play.
Well, being a D&D player and
Yeah.
a permanent DM, I was just constantly thinking, okay, he's making a performance check here, he's making a persuasion check here,
Yeah.
oh, constitution save, and attack roll, like in my head, I'm doing all that stuff. Like you see people freaking out when that thing appeared, and all I could think of is fearsome, frightening presence.
Yeah. I kept over focusing on the voices, picking out which character was doing which voice of the NPCs, like because I know Matt does a lot of them, but I'm pretty sure in the show they have other people doing some of the NPCs, so they're doing more than just Matt doing all of them.
They released a video about a lot of the people who are voice acting. I've forgotten her name, but I think her name's Stephanie something. She's from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She plays one of my favorite characters, Kima, which is a halfling paladin.
Yeah, Lady Kima.
And I think one of the what are they called? Hobbits from Lord of the Rings is one of those new characters that was in the old show, but not was in the show before it started. He was like the grizzly dwarf guy or something. I don't know. I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, so I think it's fun picking out voices that you kind of recognize, and then putting them to characters, but then still hearing the Matt Mercer ones too, right? And even hearing, like, remembering maybe that scene or that kind of. There are some scene beats that seem to come right from the tabletop game. Maybe not necessarily word for word, but pretty close. They introduce, the council pretty quick. They introduce the town they're in. They give us this idea that, they're kind of misfits, but because by the end of the episode 1, which is a very short arc for them to go from we're misfits, but now we're ready to be serious. But I get it. They probably at the time didn't know how many shows they were going to have. You can't slow play that. We're just going to be like, get some character growth moving here. And so they go from kind of whimsical and just run of the mill people to, we have a mission now and we're serious about it and we're not going to let this happen. And I kind of like that.
My low key, DM brain was wondering what level they were, because Scanlan was talking about having a purple hand, so they must be level 9 if they have what's that spell called?
Big B's hand, right?
Big B's hand.
Yeah, because he loves it. That's his favorite.
That's a signature spell for him, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, but like if they're level 9, surely they aren't just misfits. Like level 9s can do a bunch of stuff. That's like when a lot of campaigns end at level 10, that's some pretty
high level characters stuff already.
Yeah.
Well, they chop off a limb of a guy in one shot, and then they get into a big, and I think they're punching through the chests of people, and they're maiming people, and then just going crazy. So it's pretty funny, the amount of violence that just starts off right off. I think the character designs look great. I think they match everything that you would think from the Critical Role show. I think it's funny how they all are trying to be. Most of those characters are very edgelord characters, except for Grog, who I still love in the whole thing because he's just the big goofy guy.
Yeah.
And I love that they really played up the Keyleth angle of her being pretty naive. Like, I don't remember her being that way but I know that's what the character she wanted to portray it as, being starting super, super, super naive. And then as the campaign goes on, she kind of grows up, right? And that's her character arc, which I think is cool. And I think in the show, they portrayed that even better than it would have been if you'd watched the show. Who's your favorite character now? Like in the show, when I watched it, I think my favorite character would have been like probably Grog or Vex, maybe,
It's a toss-up between Vax'ildan and Trinket, because
everybody loves Trinket. Yeah, Trinket's the best. Yeah, even in the show, it's like Trinket's the best.
And I guess hope that it is Matt who's doing the sounds of Trinket, because he always loves doing that.
Well, what's interesting is three episodes in, and by the time you get to the third episode, I'll be curious once you've watched it to come back and talk to you about it. Maybe it's we're just on Discord or something, because by the third episode, I am now really liking Talison's character, where I really disliked his character watching it live played.
Okay.
But in this, the way they portray it, I think he's gotten more times to deliver his dialogue better. His dialogue is more concise to what his character is. And I know that's hard to do. Like, I'm not doing if you watch me play Khan or you watch me play Vanguard, I am not doing any masterful performance of an actor. So I say this with a grain of salt, knowing this. But I feel like because they've had the prep, he can see the animations and he does the voice for it, and they can talk about, this character. I'm really liking Talison's character third episode in, whereas I wasn't as attached to him through the whole, Critical Role campaign. I didn't care about his role line. I wanted to know more about Grog or more about some of the other characters. So I don't know.
Well, speaking about knowing about the characters, I've been diving into that new Tal'Dorei campaign setting, the Reborn one, and I went straight to each of because it has a section for Vox Machina and what they did afterwards, and definitely spoilers in there for anyone watching the show, like super spoilers, but then again, the campaign's been finished for years.
Yeah, that one's done.
but I particularly enjoyed looking at the images and reading about where they finished off. But that's a really good, if anybody is interested in Critical Role, that is a really nice campaign setting with I think 8 or 9 subclasses. Mm-hmm. So
did you have the original one? I have the original one.
Yes, I have the original one somewhere. I've been borrowing the Tal'Dorei Reborn one.
I've been hearing the new one's much thicker. You can go see Ted. He did a nice comparison of the two where he looks at the table of contents. He goes through what's in it. The book is definitely double the size of the original. It's kind of like an edited, more expanded version of that first one that was done by Goblin Press. And this one's done by their press, with Darrington Press. So it's their own book this time. So definitely a strong campaign world. So now you've got, 3 stream shows. If you want to know anything about that campaign world, you've got at least 3 books to go to here pretty quickly, with the March one dropping also. And you're going to have a Amazon TV show. So if there was a campaign world that you were like, I want to go to one that has lots of info, well, here you go. There's one where you can pick up a lot of stuff. You can learn all the names of stuff. You can learn all the places of stuff, and you can run your group through that stuff, through that too. So very interesting. Episodes drops on Fridays from here on out, as far as I understand. So now we'll slow play as they go. Mm-hmm. And you were saying you were just picked up that book and were reading. The thing I just picked up, jumping off of Vox Machina and Dungeons and Dragons in general for a second, I picked up the quick starter rules for Homeworld Revelations. Ooh. Have you played the Homeworld games?
I have not.
Put it on your list. If you see it on a Steam sale or your Xbox, I know you've got the cool Xbox play any game you want deal. Mm-hmm. Homeworld is a real-time strategy science fiction game, but now it's a tabletop role-playing game, also made by Modifius. And I was reading through the rule set, and it looks really cool. It's
which looks nice.
It's beautiful, beautiful art, awesome music in the games if you play those. And then this starts you off on a desert planet. You get to start the quick start mission or adventure is you're exploring a derelict wreck. You find something that's like a guide stone. You try to steal it out from some other people that are also trying to, I want to say not architect, but not art. When you're digging stuff out of the sand.
Oh, yeah.
Archaeologists. They're doing archaeology on it also, but you're sneaking in. You find a guide stone, and the guide stone is the thing that brings you back to space in the game, which is really cool. So I was reading the rules. It's a 2D20 system that Modifius runs. I like how they do the skill sets. Really interesting classes. Has ship combat, so you can do ship combat in it too. I even did some on my YouTube channel. I have some episodes of me playing Deserts of Karak Homeworld, which is the one where they put it. So Homeworld started in space. You build a mothership, and you build fleets of things to keep you safe while you're being attacked from other motherships.
Okay.
Three or four games into it, they go to Deserts of Karak, where you've crash landed on a planet, and they put the whole RTS game on a desert planet. So it's almost like playing like a Dune game at that point, where you're trying to slowly rebuild your fleet. And you're moving along the surface of this Dune world, and it's really fun. And then you get back up into space, and you get back doing stuff again. So really cool. I like it. It's a
So
system.
Looking at the rule set, what does it feel like is the driving thing? Like with D&D, like although there's 3 pillars, it definitely seems like combat is the driving force, and that's the majority of the rule book. What does it seem like in this one?
Yeah, this is going to be, I think this would be good for those types of campaigns where you are the runaway refugees that are being hunted. You're trying to slowly explore, hide, rebuild enough so that you can fight back. Right? And there's a bigger overpowering force that has more than you. If they find you, they're going to try to destroy you. And the whole thing is about you trying to hide long enough, explore long enough, find things that are going to help you finally stand up against that. Right?
Well,
and so
that's fun.
Yeah, so I think that's a very typical kind of sci-fi story trope, I think, in that line. I don't know, like you're not really out looking for more treasure hunting unless you're thinking about more ships, but you're looking for ship salvage. You're looking for things to add to your fleet. You're looking for resources so you can keep the things going that you have going.
Sure.
And then you're trying to, almost like a Battlestar Galactica, maybe kind of storyline where you're trying to get away from the Cylons and you're trying to, how do we rebuild enough that we can fight against the Cylons because they're more powerful than us?
You're not a Cylon, are you, Lucian?
I am, definitely. I'm a huge Battlestar Galactica fan too. I love that. So that's the one I was watching. So when you had said, "Oh, I'm reading this one," I'm like, "Oh, that's funny," because I was just starting to read this one.
Yeah.
Very cool. I love Modiphius's dice system, 2d20, and then you get successes or failures, and you're rolling out low numbers. So if you're a d20 low roller, you'll love this system because there are people out there that are just naturally good at rolling high 20s, and there's those of us that are naturally good at rolling low 20s, and so this is a low 20 roller.
Okay.
So interesting. I thought it's free. You can get it out at their website. They're going to put out the actual full game in a box set pretty soon. I'm all on board. They're the ones that are doing all the cool stuff out there. I mean, I've got all kinds of Modiphius games that I love.
Yeah, I've heard a bunch about Modiphius. I was looking into, like, a couple of months ago, the Fallout game that I think they're doing.
Yeah, they do a 2D20 Fallout game too.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've been meaning to get into that. Like, I'm trying to figure out, because I'm sure you've discussed this before with Jordan, but the concept of trying to get people to play non
D&D.
Yeah, and so like I've definitely tried in that aspect, like, hey, you like Fallout the game, wasn't that fun? You want to try a different RPG system? It's like, yeah, but we're nearly level 8. Okay, sure, we'll keep playing D&D. That's fine, I'm down with it.
I have this new character concept. Aren't we starting a new D&D campaign? There's something about D&D that just draws you in.
I'm getting that already, because in one of my other games, we're getting close to the end, and they're doing that thing where they're like, I'm already made up a new character for the next campaign.
I'm already thinking about the next one. Yeah. I have that as a player. That's my bad habit for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, to round out our news for the day, this is Gen Con weekend. For any of you that are going to be going to Gen Con, it should be opening up, I believe, on Sunday. But double check that to make sure it wasn't today. It should be opening up on Sunday to register for your badges. And then I think eventually you can register for hotels. Me and Jordan have said we're going. I'm going to go ahead and get my badge and everything that I can, even if I cancel later down the road. I don't know. Whatever new variant of COVID could still be out there. We're on Omicron now, so eventually we'll get to Zeta Phi, or whatever alphabet they're going to go to with COVID at some point.
I just want to go to a convention, like any convention at all one day. I've never been to one. And
PAX Aus.
I had tickets to go to PAX Australia, and I caused COVID apparently by having the audacity to try and organize something in the future.
You think you're going to do that, buddy? Well, stop doing that, because we want to get back to our real lives, Danimal, so stop.
Yeah, like when the majority of a convention comes from overseas, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah. That type of thing is not conducive to having lots of people indoors next to each other, all talking about their favorite thing in the world, 3 feet from each other. So,
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, the only convention I've ever been to was when I was like 16 years old, and I went to Games Day, which was like
Oh, nice.
a Games Workshop convention. That was interesting
Even
at
that's
best.
fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we one thing I know a good talking point for us because I know when you're on here and we talk about dungeon master stuff because you do so much dungeon mastering. You are running two parties through the same campaign currently,
Indeed.
and I had some questions that you can feel free to expand on as we go through this because I thought if any other dungeon masters were out there thinking about doing something like this, the experience, because now we're pretty far into it. Now it wasn't like it's just at the beginning. Now each group is pretty deep. Um, can you think of, was there a time, this is the one question I've had that I've been thinking about.
Sure.
Have you had to, when you ran the first group through, did you change something to make it better or more fun or more understandable the second time you ran a group through? Was there anything that just stood out to you that said in Dungeon of the Mad Mage, this first time I did it, I didn't like what happened? Go ahead and tell us a little bit about that. What was the example?
I think every level has had at least one thing that I've changed.
Oh, okay, that much.
My biggest complaint about the book, like if I'm going to start this off with a complaint, would be that it either seems rushed or they were trying to bite off more than they can chew, because there are countless areas where it says stuff that it doesn't give you the full information from. So one of the biggest examples that really had me scratching my head was in the 6th level, which was the one that had the Duergar trying to find the crypt of the Dwarven King.
Yeah.
At one point, a bullet jumped out of the ground.
Yeah.
And in the book, it explains how all of the pathways are blocked. It doesn't explain why they were blocked. It doesn't explain how they were blocked. And then it almost implies that the statues moved there to block them. I mean, I remember just scratching my head going, what's supposed to be happening in this room? Because I am a bad DM where I don't do the best amount of preparation. I try my best. I read through everything, but when I'm running a module, I as much improv as I do read from the book. And then sometimes I make mistakes, and I walked into that room not knowing. Another one was the castle on top of that spindle in level, I want to say 7 or 8, and I had to reread that one paragraph like 10 times, and it still didn't seem to make sense. And it's almost like they had a full amount of information describing how this castle works, and then they broke up the paragraphs and put them in different places. And unless you read the whole thing and then realize that they're talking and put them all together. So when I was describing it to my party, I described it like A. Oh, actually, no, it's like B. No, it's like C. No, it's D. And then when I got to you guys, I'm like, it's D. So you guys definitely get the more streamlined version. I definitely tweak and change things. Sometimes I feel like the encounter, like if I ran the encounters as written, a lot of them would not be challenging even slightly. There's so many times, even now, my home group has 1 level 14 and 3 level 13s, and so they're in the deep end, and the amount of times that they come across 8 drow, like I'm talking CR1 half drow, and that's the encounter in this room. I'm like, yeah, no, I've got to pump those numbers up to make it more fun. And it is definitely a balancing act, and I'm guilty of overpowering my players a bunch and allowing things that probably shouldn't be allowed. So I usually make my players stronger anyway, so I have to make the encounters a bit more difficult or interesting. But to fight the monotony of, because that's something that I've heard a lot about Mad Mage, where you go into this room, then you go into that room. It is a dungeon crawl, and some players love that. Other players find it a bit daunting and a bit too much. And every now and then I try to throw in some other encounters or make things more interesting or fun. But I've definitely been using MCDM with his what's it
Yeah,
called?
Matt Colville. Yeah.
Yeah, with the how he gives like creatures bonus actions or whatnot. What was
Yeah.
it called? I can't remember what the thing was called. Someone will say it in chat, I'm sure. I'm regularly doing that, like giving a theme. So like if you remember that area recently where you guys fought those Yugoloths that seem to have an anger against spellcasters.
Right.
I did that to make the fight more interesting because you fought these guys before, and I'm like,
Mhm.
they're near the end. I will give them the Mage Slayer trait and have one of them just really want to target a specific spellcaster each turn with a random mechanic. And I could tell by the way you guys were playing, you're like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, they can attack us after we cast a spell as a reaction. Like it really changed up the combat and spiced it up a bit. And I felt like it made it more interesting, more fun, more tactical without overpowering it. And I just feel like I'm constantly doing that, especially after playing with my home group, like my test group, if you will. But yeah, there's been situations where you guys, the thing I find most interesting is you guys seem to action-oriented monsters. Someone said in chat. I find that like the amount of times that you guys get stuck or breeze through different areas, and I genuinely love it. Like there's times where my home group could not overcome this encounter, and then you guys like did it in a quarter of a session and then continued walking. And they're obsessed with the gates, and you guys don't really bother too much with the gates, and I totally get that. That's fine. And then most recently with that encounter with the skull that was throwing you up and down, they got lucky and managed to get through that very quickly, and it seemed to hold up you guys.
Nearly killed us.
Oh yeah, nearly killed a few of you.
Yeah.
It is very interesting. I do love playing for two different groups. Every now and then it doesn't happen often. I'm pretty good with remembering things that players do, but every now and then you get a problem where, ooh, did this happen in that game or this game?
Right, keeping them straight depending on how far apart you're playing them. I like that idea. It probably helps on prep too, because if you've done the prep for the first game, you play through it with a party, you probably don't need as much prep when our party comes through that same area. Maybe a little bit, but not nearly as much as if you were just making your own campaign up on the fly at that point. So I think from a prep standpoint, it could be pretty good too.
One of the biggest things would be just modifying Roll20, because I play both games on Roll20, and the amount of times where you can see through a secret wall, and like they didn't do the dynamic lighting perfectly, or a creature that I feel like you shouldn't be able to see isn't on the GM layer, it's on the token layer.
Yeah.
And like you've caught me out on a couple of those with your really long sight there, Khan.
Yeah.
But I'm usually pretty good at, before our session starts, okay, quickly check that everything's on the right layer, because like that fight where the I've forgotten the name of it now, where that land shark jumps out of the ground. Yeah. Where that jumps out of the ground and attacks you guys, where it's supposed to be underground. On the map, it's just there, not on the GM layer.
Oh.
And so you got
people walking and would have seen it. And yeah.
And I have been caught like that at home. And so when that happens, they're like, "Oh, we see those guys." I'm like, "Yeah," and they're angry.
How did the second group, the first group, we'll call them first group, we're second group. Sure. How'd they handle the Hallister school level, which was just before we got to this one we're on now, but it's probably been a couple of sessions for them since that.
Well, remember that Bone Devil you guys killed for the school?
Yeah.
They teamed up with it.
Oh, so that's the other cool thing I was thinking about that could happen, and I'm sure it happens a lot, is that who we pick to ally with or who we pick to help has probably been pretty different between the two groups. Like if you went back, because on my group randomly picks weird people to help, and there is no rhyme or you couldn't possibly guess who or what we're going to help, at any given. Nobody was going to guess I was going to resurrect the two twins, nobody was going to guess we're going to have a nice sit down at the bar with the drow, and yet kill everything else that moved or had a shadow, or whatever.
Well, I'm not sure if you remember, but Ward walked through the illusory wall first, and started attacking the Bone Devil when the Bone Devil was like, I can offer you a deal or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, it just went right at him.
And so it was just charged at him. While with my group, they were like, go on. And it turns out one of the character that you guys called Elvira, he was summoned by that Bone Devil was summoned by one of the wizards that were dead before you got there to kill her. And so if you assisted in killing her, then he would be in your debt and would owe them something, right? And it was a very interesting session because they had to get out of there because the headmaster wasn't just outside the room. And so one player grabbed the Bone Devil and dimension doored out of there, and then they did Dust of Disappearance on the two of them. And so I had another player run the Bone Devil, and then the two of them went through trying to find Skriana. They had no idea where she was, and they opened some doors that they shouldn't have. And they got really lucky with some rolls and some saves, and then they ended up with just the Bone Devil, and that player ended up taking out Skriana because they got the jump on her. And when you're only fighting one wizard, it's a hell of a lot easier. And then they made a deal with the devil, which was hilarious for me. And do you know what I mean when you play on how you know your characters, how you know your players will react?
Yeah.
It was my wife's character that was making the deal, and I was talking quick and acting fast, and so the Bone Devil was like, "Okay, so I'll just summon in my this person, so we can get it all sorted out." And they were like, "Okay, we're not gonna sign anything. We're not gonna do anything. We're not gonna do anything bad." And then I did like a delivery man imp. He came in and he was like, "Okay, so here's the chest. Everything is in order. If you could just sign here, please, for collection of the chest." And she signed. And because she really hit chest right. And I was fast talking, and then I saw my other players just go, "Oh no," as she signed. Yep. And then I said, all right, he takes the folded paper away. He signed at the bottom of a folded sheet of paper. And, that's just a cool story arc thing. And that has, if anything, like I said before, it's been more good than bad. She's slowly getting corrupted, and it's a good story arc. But, it's that whole, oh no, what have I done? And having my players stress out.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes that I got to DM was convincing one of our players to make a deal with the devil to bring back his paladin friend from Revenor. So when Sasha's character decides to sign the deal with the devil, and then they get back baby paladin instead of regular paladin, because they didn't. That was so good. Because I always loved the idea of the demons and devils deals and what you can do with those, especially the devils for sure. And I saw some talk. There was a bunch of talk about devils on the Discord earlier today too, and so that'd be good. So, well, that's super cool that there are differences. You're never bored that the same thing is happening. The same your players are doing the same thing. It's funny to see that players do different things. And are they as completionist as we are? Are they AC Inc. also? Have you roped them in?
They are not AC Inc. But if you ever played Diablo with my wife, which you did once, I think, she's the kind of person that needs to look in every nook and cranny.
So you didn't have to give a reason. Got it.
No, I did not. They want to look everywhere. They want to get everything. And then I'm a bad person. I always go, okay, you finished that level. You're done, right? So they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. You missed 3 secret doors, but don't worry about it. It destroys her soul, but I love it.
So one of the other funny points, and we'll kind of jump around. I had some more cool questions for you. There was a lot of trash talking going on in the last few episodes. It seems the two teams are up in arms about which team is better. So I don't know. Is this thing going to happen? Is there going to be like a PvP fight between the two teams? Oh, this was the question I actually really wanted to know.
Oh, yeah.
Are we in the same timeline, or does it not work because the way you have named bad guys that we have to fight also, and they've already fought, or are we in your world in the same timeline?
Okay, so in my head canon,
Yeah.
it is the same timeline, but I treat it more like Undermountain is like an instance in World of Warcraft.
Okay.
So you guys are going into parallel universes when you're in Undermountain, but I like to believe you guys are in
all the
Waterdeep
characters
in the same-
exist. Like when we go to back to Waterdeep, we're all back in Waterdeep or whatever. But,
Yeah, to the point where every now and then, you guys don't know it, but my home group does. I throw in a character in the background or what have you, like especially when you're in Dragon Heist more, because you had more interaction with Waterdeep there.
Yeah.
But speaking on the potential possible PvP, yeah, I know there's some people that are really arguing for it, because those who don't know, my home players last session just started trash talking in the chat while we were playing with Lucian and friends, and there was a lot of trash talking that you guys didn't see at home.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, how is he? They were talking about hitting me, but he can't even hit with advantage. What's going on?
That is true.
Yeah, and I've walked in on my players talking tactics. Okay, so we'll stun the wizard. We will I'll use synaptic static on the guys that have low intelligence. We'll knock and they have an unfair advantage. They're higher level and they know your characters. You guys don't know these guys.
Yeah. Well, here's the funny thing too, is there's been nothing but talk about how to defeat their team since the game on Tuesday. And if you think they talk a lot, you don't know how Sasha and Logan in this group. We have been strategizing for at least 6 days, so they are definitely ready for this big showdown. So I think it'd be fun at some point. It'd be very funny.
I'm curious about the balance of it, because you guys are what 2 levels below them, although one of them is 3 of them are level 14. 3 of them are level 13. One's level 14 because a curious event where I'm like, you know what? I'll let them draw a random card.
That's right, from the deck. Yeah,
from the deck of many things, and they ended up drawing the one where you got to kill a thing, and I said it has to be the next creature that is of at least this CR. I kind of modified. I didn't want them leveling up from a goblin, and they succeeded, and only just. But it was probably useful that it was the monk who could lock down the creature pretty nicely.
But their group's an interesting group too, because you're right, we don't know a lot about them, but from what I have heard and from the intel that I've been getting, there has been they have a monk, which you just mentioned. I feel like you've mentioned they've had a warlock. They must have a cleric.
Yep. And a rogue.
Oh, a rogue. They don't even have a fighter?
Nope.
Ooh. So they have 2 melee, 2 sorta casters, 1 heal.
Well, the rogue is not a melee rogue. The rogue is a
is he an archer rogue?
No, throwing psychic blades.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, somebody had said that. Somebody had said he's a Psyblade rogue.
Yep. Yeah, the soul knife.
Knife.
The cleric is a Tempest cleric, and that is the real front line. That's the one that may put Sinan's defenses to shame a little bit, because
but what about Ward?
Yeah.
That's the thing,
what is interesting. I'm pretty confident their plan is to attack your intelligence.
Okay, good.
The warlock loves casting synaptic static, which minuses the d6 off everything if you fail to save, and unless you have a positive save, his DC's 20. So if you don't have a positive save, you cannot pass. It's to the point where dealing with them, they cast synaptic static on a bad guy. I'm like, okay, he has a -2, so I'm not going to roll, and I'm not going to roll at the end of each of his turns because he cannot pass. He will have a -d6 for all attacks and ability checks for the rest of this game.
Interesting. Very interesting.
But the scariest thing is the monk. The monk is scary. It is the astral self monk, and
Stunning Strike is scary to any, because once you take away what a character could normally do in a turn, that's tough. That's definitely tough. I don't think our team would have any trouble with him, but
It just depends on who can go first.
Because we're talking on our team, you're talking about a fighter barbarian Warforged that's out of control at this point.
Yep.
I mean, the power you've allowed him to acquire is game breaking at this point. Sinan, who's just a crazy minded cleric, the wizard who has crazy stuff, the artificer who has crazy stuff, and then the arcane archer. If you focus on me, which is good, you're leaving those other guys alone. If you don't focus me, I'll punish you. Like in that, like just from the funny thing that they said, like, oh, he can't even hit. But in the first round I did 66 points of damage in one round, and it was just it's crazy.
It would be interesting. I'm curious as to like I was saying before, they're like 2 to 3 levels higher than you, but they have one less player.
Yeah,
so I wonder if that's balanced or not, because D&D
the action economy.
It's not designed for PvP, but you guys will have one extra thing, so I don't know. But something that they have been doing.
They have a shield guardian though, don't they?
No, I've killed that.
You finally took it away. That was okay.
I killed that. That was
get this
powerful.
out.
Like the amount of encounters where, like I said,
it broke
imagine Sinan being up front, having +2 AC when this thing is next to him, and
broken,
only taking half damage from everything, and then the thing that is taking the other half of damage gets 10 hit points a turn. That is just no. I let them have it as long as they could keep it alive, and they did some nifty things keeping it alive. But when I took that down, it was gone. But what they've been doing is summoning creatures and planar binding them, and that's an expensive task, but it's a good money sink.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So they have a Tanaruk that they have been giving extra armor and better weapons to. And Tanaruks are kind of fun. So
they do bolster all their party, even if it's not player. They bolstered their party. We did it with Bob, and we did it. Yep. We did it in Tomb of Annihilation, where we had the I forget the mercenary guy that we just picked up and had with us. And chicken.
I like it when I definitely like and allow it when my players try to use persuasive talking to encourage someone else to join on their team.
And we're constantly having people join our go work in our tavern, or go work
your tavern. Your tavern has to be the size of Waterdeep by the end of this campaign. I'm sure. Come visit Waterdeep, aka the Good Night Inn.
So if you guys ever want to know what we're talking about, it's on the Tuesday nights. You can see that. Now you're not streaming your home game, right?
No.
Oh, see, that's a disadvantage. How come we can't see what they're doing and how they play?
I generally speaking run 3 games a week, 2 Mad Mages and 1 Curse of Strahd.
Oh, that's right. You were doing a Curse of Strahd. So my next big question, we've got just a few minutes to go. We're not really close to Dungeon of the Mad Mage being over for my team. Their team's probably getting a little bit closer to maybe ending.
They just started level 14. I will say level 13 was quick. That was 3 sessions. Yeah. Definitely the quickest level that they've cleared. So I have no idea how quick the other ones are. I've only perused 15 through 23. Mm-hmm. I'm intrigued as to how it'll all shake out. But they're past halfway. We're definitely, if you consider Dragon Heist as being part of it, but it is a long haul, and I'm low-key considering taking out some parts for, like, I have done it here and there for you guys, the less entertaining, more sloggy parts. I'm trying to speed things up a bit, because I would like you guys to get through it quicker, not trying to jump anywhere or anything, but increase the engagement levels, and not trying to finish this game before 2030.
Right. Well, and I was wondering if, like, let's say hypothetically both campaigns were ending next week, we've finally gotten through them. Where are you leaning towards what you want to do after these? Are you leaning towards I'm burned out on D&D and I'm looking at other systems? Are you looking at I have this other campaign that I want to run? Or are you still looking at some of the books that they're putting out? Because we've done all Wizards of the Coast stuff. Is there more Wizards of the Coast stuff you want to do? Or is there you want to do a homebrew world at some point? Or what are you thinking? What's your next?
something that you've discussed before on this show that I am definitely in line with is that whole. You remember you were talking about the badges and like I've defeated Madman. Oh, you did too. Remember this bit? I love that whole discussion about how did you guys deal with that? Oh,
Yeah.
wasn't this bit crazy? And yeah, I'm a big. I agree with that. I like the whole. I'm a big fan of homebrew campaigns, a big fan of like you've made up everything or even third party. But there is that level of more people have played Ice Spire or more people have played Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus and more people have played this or that than those third party ones. And I feel more pulled into the concept of those games. I think the next one I want to run, assuming I run anything, is Descent into Avernus. I've heard some negative things about it, but I've been reading it a bunch, and I do have a spin that I want to take on it, and I do like the concept of diving into hell, and I just know in my heart that my players will love riding on vehicles around Avernus. Getting their Mad Max on. I would have the Baldur's Gate startup part, and I will be tweaking it heavily. I already know what I'm going to do,
how to fix those parts.
But I'm I think that one or the what was it called, Icewind Dale one.
Okay.
Those two are the ones I want to play most.
I would be curious to see you run Storm King's Thunder.
That is one that I might be running with my what's it called? With my Strahd group. There was talk about that when we were picking Strahd. There was talk about maybe Storm King's Thunder, but
you got to stream it so I can watch it, because it's one I've DM'd. It's one I think I want to go back and DM now a second time that I've DM'd it, and I've DM'd more than one group in it before. And I think now that I know more about it, more I dove into it, the next time I do it, it'll be better, and the next time I play it, it'll be better, and the next time I play it, it'll be better. I'd love to see somebody else run it too. That'd be a good one. So okay, so we're still not going to get a Danimal DM custom campaign world yet. He's still stuck into the Wizards of the Coast worlds for now.
The closest that I did was my homebrew campaign in Theros, and I really dug that. That was fun. But I will be the first to admit, and I said before, I am a lazy DM. I really am. I try to not be. I try to be proactive. And then video games start talking to me, and audiobooks start talking to me, and I'm like,
I'm telling you, Revenar later. Revenar was so fun.
Yeah,
you gotta try it.
Was good.
You gotta make up your own little port city.
Speaking of Revenar, I saw Wandering Disciple in the chat. I remember.
Hey, Wandering Disciple. Nice. Very cool. Well, all right. So Jordan doesn't normally let us go late. So those are the 3 games you're playing. I'm playing Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I'm getting a super, super big itch to run and DM again. I'm finally over the hump of work, really taking a lot out of me. And I'm thinking I got to pick a night. So I got to maybe pick a night and get some players. Maybe I pick some players from the show. Maybe I pick some players from the Revenar group. Maybe I pick some, I don't know, whoever's out there. I'll find out. Because I really want to start playing again or running some stuff. Got a lot of ideas.
If you want to play to give you grief, I'm right here.
Yeah, well, I know. I know. We've done some good story arcs already. In the limited amount of time me and you have played, I thought we've had some good stories with the characters you've created already. I loved your...
Jorphdan?
Yeah, Jorphdan was a great character, really. And his storyline was really fun to kind of... to start. We didn't even... I mean, what was it? Maybe 3 or 4 sessions total? Maybe more?
Oh, with Jorphdan? I think a bit more than that, but
I'm trying to remember.
I think he did like a good 6 or 7 Revenar, and then I did a one-off with the main group.
Yeah, but I loved his where his storyline was going and what we did. You are a good player because you do like to play into the... You know how to give the DM hooks. You know how to give the DM story beats to play off of, so it allows the DM to be able to do some cool things with the character. So that's pretty cool. And I like playing in your games. I think the con storyline is really cool. Yeah, it's been really fun to play. Vanguard was a cool storyline to play so far. So, and even my death characters, even the ones that have died or have moved on, they're really cool, iconic characters. So I've got to make some really fun stuff. So
Before we go,
yeah,
I gotta say, I guess keep thinking about Khan the Aarakocra anytime I see anything about Moon Knight.
yeah,
I'm super excited about Moon Knight. I had no knowledge of Moon Knight or Khonshu before you brought up any of that stuff.
Then now it's coming. I can't
Yeah,
wait
yeah.
so much. I was just watching Peacemaker on HBO. We watched an episode. He has a pet bald eagle. So the minute it was online, and it does stuff like it hugs him and it does stuff for him. Like, come on.
Is that show comical like the Suicide Squad was?
Yes, exactly like Suicide Squad. Not kid friendly.
Oh, I'm sure.
Exact same scene you would have gotten in Vox Machina, but in full blown John Cena-ness.
All right. Yeah, I saw some. I had no idea it came out, and then I'm like, turns out I'm way episodes behind. I had no knowledge of it, so I'm gonna have to.
We're catching up,
man. I have so much to catch up on that. The Witcher,
and then all the computer games we're playing, so you gotta have time for all that.
Gotta play more. Gotta play more Rainbow Six Extraction.
That was the other question. We'll go a little lower.
Oh no, we're going over.
I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool to run a session or two that was basically a Rainbow Extraction mission, the way we've been playing them, but it's D&D?
I have thought the exact same.
How could I convert this cool thing, cool map, cool entities that are doing their things, but I want my D&D group to try to go through it? I'm
sending my drone in to scan the room. All right, perception check.
Yeah.
I was thinking, wow, it's a lot like a familiar. and this mission, you've got to do this. And
you just start, here's a nest, here's a guy walking, here's this guy walking. And if you trigger one, they just start swarming from all over the place. And you have the nests that just drop more out if you don't take care of them.
I was
Plus you have missions.
I was definitely thinking in an almost XCOM way.
Yeah.
Because that's the closest example I have in my head of a square turn-based system. But yeah. No, I've had this.
I think that'd be pretty fun. That'd be a cool Dungeons and Dragons option to run some missions where, like, because the mission variety is go and rescue a operative, like somebody who went in and fell. So you're going to bring them back out. One of them is, gather information on the nest so we get more info. One of them is get an asset, somebody who's still alive in there has been hiding, but you're going to try to bring them out. Mm-hmm. One of them is disrupt a certain variant of a nest.
Yeah, aberration.
Yep. So you got to do the aberration one. One of them is to triangulate something also.
Yeah, you got to get to the 3 computers.
Yeah, because you're going to triangulate. So more information. So you could do a couple of information gathering ones, a couple of escort ones. I think that'd be pretty fun.
And the thing that I like most is, and I've talked about this with some of the other people I've played with, the concept of, when one of them sees you and does a roar and activates everyone. I would could I just get a perception check from everyone? All right, you two notice that he has clocked you. You each get one turn against it, and if they don't take it out on that turn,
it calls everything in.
And I love that concept to the point where I'm thinking about doing the inverse, where doing that in D&D, where I just have one guy like a sentry, because that does happen sometimes in D&D, where you have a sentry where if he can activate the bell or whatever, it triggers people. But I like it more with the concept of monsters and creatures, where if one guy sees you and you could have a turn to react. One person, one turn, you get one shot. But I don't think that works as well in higher D&D, in low level D&D, where you can drop a creature like a goblin in one shot. That could work. But when it's he's got 70 hit points, good luck taking him out in one turn.
It's not gonna happen. You'd have to do some special crit, special headshot, special called shot. You get one chance. It'd almost have to be a mini game of its own to see if you could do it, and then if you didn't, you go back to normal rules, right, or whatever. You'd have to almost have special rules for coup de grace rules or something like that for that. So Very interesting. Yeah, so we'll play lots of video games together too. So, all right, well, we'll wrap it up here. Indeed. This has been the Saturday morning D&D show. This has been with Danimal DM, the Dungeon Master from Down Under. He likes to say the digital Dungeon Master from Down Under, I believe.
It's okay.
Here you go. Do your intro on the outro.
G'day, I've been Danimal DM, your diligent digital Down Under Dungeon Master, and you can catch me playing Dungeon of the Mad Mage on my Twitch, but it's fine if you don't.
But you should, because you can find Khan and them, and I really encourage you should get your other games up, because I think they'd be fun to watch too.
Yeah.
A couple of cameras in the house, no big deal.
They like the concept, but they don't like the regularity. They want to be able to not have to worry about what they look like.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the schedule of a Twitch show is definitely a little bit more on people that want to be able to do it. But when you're virtual anyways, that makes it probably a little more easier than you play at your table quite a bit. So I assume.
Yeah, when we can, we play at the table.
Yeah, because you've got all the cool miniatures, and you've
I got this guy that you guys are currently fighting.
Go watch the last episode. Oh, somebody asked me this, and I meant to ask you: are you archiving the episodes so they can go back and they can watch the old episodes?
So if you remember, I have said it once or twice that I'm a lazy DM. I have been archiving them on my Twitch. I try to save them. I have missed a couple. I've let a few expire.
Okay, I did that on mine, yeah.
And the goal is to transfer them all over to a YouTube channel. And I've gotten most of, if not all of, Dragon Heist. And I have all of Tomb transferred over. And we're like 60-something episodes into Mad Mage, and I don't think I have any of those transferred over because
you need an assistant.
Lazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I do that with mine too. So, okay, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys for showing up on Saturday morning. Make sure you check your Gen Con on Sunday. We will see you
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning or Monday morning for them, maybe. Yeah. We'll see you in the next one, and Jordan should be back. I don't think he said so. Everybody, bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me. Bye.